Kia ora koutou katoa. Welcome to the launch of the 5th year of Oxygen Sustainability Professionals Report. I'm delighted to be able to introduce this insightful piece of research this year and the team who works so hard each year to bring it to you. My name is Jerry Ward and I am, as of this week, the Principal Consultant at Oxygen Consulting. I've long been a huge fan and proponent of this unique piece of research that Oxygen, the AUT, SBN and the SBC bring to our professional sector each year, and I couldn't be more proud to be introducing it for the first time this year. I'm also acutely conscious that our dear friend Rod Oram is usually the one to have emceed this event, and I'd just like to take a moment to honour his memory, his profound legacy, and to say how much we miss him and the energy he brought to our sustainability whānau. On a personal note, I'd also like to thank Sarah and the team for bringing such a sense of solidarity over the years to our burgeoning sustainability community through this work. I, for one, felt enormously validated and seen by many of the findings in this report, as I'm sure you will too. And I'm profoundly grateful for the sense of connection and empathy that brings with it. I'd like to share a karakia before we kick off today. Tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I waho, tu taua mai I roto, kia tō ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, homi e, hui e, taiki e. So with no further ado, I'd like to jump into it and introduce Dr. Sarah Holden, Director at Oxygen, who will present the findings of this year's report.
Kia ora everybody, it is an absolute privilege to be bringing you the 5th annual Insights on New Zealand Sustainability Professionals. As always, it is a huge piece of work, but one we are absolutely honoured to be able to lead in conjunction with our partners, SBC, SBN and AUT. I'm going to share my screen now and take you through the key insights from this year's report. It's not an exhaustive coverage of the report, so please do jump to our website and download the full report if you would like further information. All right. Okay, I just want to pause on, I know I've acknowledged our partners, but this is the incredible amount of people that are involved in putting this research together every year. And in particular, I do want to call out Jack Kendall out in our team who has championed this year's research and taken it to new levels again. So thank you so much, Jack. Such incredible work, and Kelly Flats as well, championing the leading of this research with our partners and project managing it right through to the end. So thank you both. And thank you to the 322 sustainability professionals who participated in this research. We absolutely wouldn't have been able to provide this without you, and each year we get more and more participation. It does enable us to really enrich the insights and provide you with a lot greater kind of level of understanding on what's going on out there. So without further ado, I'll be covering remuneration, capability, and the wellbeing section of our insights report. Okay, just to recap as well before we go into that, we did study 3 different role types in our research as we had done last year. This was the 2nd year that we started to investigate these particular role types. So just to recap, the general is someone who leads the strategic direction. They facilitate the coordination and implementation of organisational sustainability. So that's your classic CSO, GM of sustainability, head of sustainability manager in-house. Then you have your specialist role type. So this is someone that delivers specialist expertise on specific technical or specialist aspects of sustainability. So for example, sustainability consultants, as well as specialist roles in particular subject area within an organisation. Then finally, we have our additional. So there, I think this is probably a real growing segment. their core role is in another part of the business, but has some sustainability responsibilities. So for example, procurement professionals also managing sustainable supply chain practices, corporate affairs professionals who are also responsible for overseeing sustainability, and some core business roles in sustainability associations. In terms of the response rate, we had 43% from generals, 39% specialists, and 18% additionals. Okay, so remuneration. While mean remuneration has decreased 1% between 2023 and 2024, overall mean remuneration has continued to trend upward over time, increasing 13.5% between 2020 and 2024. Across different sectors, mean remuneration has gone up since last year for those working in charities and NGOs, but dropped for roles in not-for-profits, public sector, and a marginal drop for those in the private sector. Across different sectors, across role types, specialists were the winners with a 6.1% increase in mean remuneration on last year. Generals remained fairly steady with a marginal 0.2% increase, while those in additional roles took a hit with a 6.3% decrease in mean remuneration. Across different management levels, between 2023 and 2024, mean remuneration increased for those in junior roles, in junior consultant and junior advisor roles, remained the same for those in graduate and also consultant advisor roles, and decreased for those in senior roles such as senior managers, head of roles, and GM exec and CSO roles. And I've just highlighted the mean remuneration results here so you can see the actual values, as I know they're a little hard to read on this slide. But overall, we can see that despite some fluctuations within management levels, remuneration pathways through the sustainability profession are now well established and step up across different management levels. On average, we can expect to see junior roles sitting at around 75k, mid-career roles at around 115k, and senior roles averaging 175k. Within role types, specialists and additionals in junior roles are paid nearly a third more than generals and junior roles, with a slightly smaller gap for those in full-time positions. However, remuneration steps up quickly for generals, with senior generals achieving 13 to 39% higher than specialists and additionals in senior roles. Across junior, mid-career, and senior roles, there is no gender pay gap. Across industries, 50% of the 22 industries surveyed sit above the 2024 mean remuneration for sustainability professionals, with particularly favourable results for information, media and telecommunications, financial and insurance services, and healthcare and social assistance. 71% of sustainability professionals have reported receiving a pay rise in the last year. Males were slightly more likely to have received an increase, and the private sector saw the highest average median pay rise by sector. In terms of how these pay increases came about, most were the result of a pay increase within the same role rather than from transitioning into a new role. For those who did transition into a new role, their pay increase was substantially higher at 16.2%, compared with an average 6.9% increase for those that received a pay rise within their current role. And noting that 6.9% is keeping pace with New Zealand's annual wage inflation measured in December 2023. Finally, specialists were more likely to have received their pay increase as a result of transition into a new role compared to additionals and generals. While a gender pay gap still exists in the sustainability profession, the mean pay gap across all roles is 5.6%, down from 9.2% in 2023 and 9.8% in 2022. This is a positive step in the right direction, considering New Zealand's pay gap is 8.6%. In management levels where there are equal to or more males than females, the gender pay gap is weighted towards males, while in management levels where females outnumber males, the gender pay gap is weighted towards females. On to capability and development. There is still a gap to fill in helping sustainability professionals to develop the capabilities required in their roles. While most sustainability professionals feel reasonably confident in their ability, only 34% feel completely competent in their role, down from 41% in 2023. Junior professionals are the least confident, but perhaps surprisingly, manager roles are not far behind. Could professional training help us? Perhaps, but only a third of sustainability professionals reported undertaking professional training in the past 12 months. Those that have are shifting away from formal courses or programs and towards tertiary qualifications and formal accreditations and certifications. So how are sustainability professionals building their capability then? Across all role types, the main mode by a country mile is on-the-job experience. This is followed by other self-driven activities such as research and literature reviews, networking, and listening to podcasts and webinars. With the predominant capability development channels being self-directed learning and experience, it's not surprising that only just over a half believe that this is sufficient to develop the competencies required in their role. Those in additional roles are less certain of this. 44% of sustainability professionals believe there are specific skills or competencies that are currently lacking in existing training and professional development, with only 10% agreeing that the current opportunities cover the skills and competencies required in their role. The top areas sustainability professionals believe are missing from current professional training are a mix of both soft and technical skills, including communications, stakeholder engagement, transition planning, financial sustainability, and professional certifications. With a gap to fill in capability development, it is perhaps no surprise that only 8% of sustainability professionals strongly believe they are able to keep up with the training and professional development needed to keep pace with the fast-moving sustainability landscape. Those in general roles are more likely to feel they can keep up, whereas additional roles feel the least confident. While close to a third of sustainability professionals feel somewhat confident they can keep up, nearly 2/3 either don't know or know they can't. So with the challenge of keeping pace with our rapidly changing sustainability landscape, how are our sustainability professionals feeling? When thinking about the world and current challenges, sustainability professionals are more uncertain than ever. Since 2021, sustainability professionals have moved from feeling slightly hopeful that humanity may overcome our current social, environmental, and economic challenges to now more feeling pessimistic that we can do so. Sustainability professionals believe the environmental situation is getting much worse as time goes on. Climate change materially impacts their personal well-being, and this is felt most by specialists and younger sustainability professionals. Surprisingly, despite the challenge of capability development and the growing sense of despair about the world, within their roles, sustainability professionals are actually feeling much better off than other New Zealand professionals. New Zealand professionals have seen a significant growth in work demands and job stress since last year. whereas sustainability professionals have identified that their jobs are slightly less demanding and their stress levels are consistent with last year. Although sustainability professionals have seen a slight decrease in job satisfaction and work-life balance over time, this is now much more aligned with other New Zealand professionals in both categories. Sustainability professionals' emotional exhaustion has decreased slightly, and their level of cynicism has moderately increased year on year, whereas both of these areas significantly increased for other New Zealand professionals. Both sustainability professionals and New Zealand professionals have increased their turnover intentions since 2022, with a more dramatic increase this year for New Zealand professionals. We're encouraged by the continued improvement of the wellbeing of our sustainability profession and how this reflects on the organisations that are supporting them. However, boosting professional development pathways in sustainability will be critical to ensuring sustainability professionals and their organisations can deepen their capability and share the collective and growing challenge of sustainability. So what's it going to take to shift the dial and help grow the sustainability profession? As you might expect, there isn't a silver bullet solution. Our sustainability professionals identified a range of drivers, including political, such as government support and action, and environmental and sustainability regulation. Educational drivers, including more professional training and education pathways into sustainability. Organisational drivers, such as having higher levels of leadership engagement, establishing clearer career development pathways, and strong transparency and accountability for sustainability. There are societal drivers, including greater levels of awareness and education on sustainability issues, and supporting cultural and behavioural shifts towards sustainability. And finally, individuals can also create stronger levels of collaboration across the profession and industries to help shift the dial and grow our sustainability profession. Thank you. That's all I want to cover today, but I encourage you to provide feedback to us if we welcome that, and also jump on the website and download the full report if you would like further insights or to dig into all of that deeper. Thank you very much. Ngā mihi nui, kia koe.
Kia ora, Sarah. Thanks so much for that. And please keep your questions coming in the Q&A. There are some coming through which we will get to after the panel, which we have now. So our panelists are ready and waiting in the wings. First up is Mike Burrell, Executive Director of the Sustainable Business Council. Thanks for coming, Mike. As always, great to have your collab on this exceptional piece of research, in my totally unbiased opinion. I was really captured, Mike, by the 34% number around the sustainability professionals who feel completely competent in their role, meaning that about 2/3 of us don't feel completely competent in our role at the moment, and that only 8% of us feel like we can keep up with the pace of change in this fast-moving landscape. Is this consistent with what you're seeing and hearing from your members?
Thanks, Jerry, and look, great to be here. Yeah, it is consistent with what we're hearing. We're hearing that the pace of change is accelerating year on year, and that the demands on sustainability professionals are increasing as well. And we think that's partly due to things like mandatory reporting on climate-related disclosures. It's the liabilities now that boards feel around those disclosures, and therefore that pressure's coming through the organisation. It's the rising importance of nature as an area as well, on top of that, social sustainability. And so just a whole lot of demands coming one on the other at exactly the time that, because we're in a recession, we're seeing resources being reduced. And so that really is coming to bear on the sustainability professionals. And I think, so it's difficult to yet sort of pull apart whether that's just a sheer volume issue in terms of, coping and dealing with that, or whether it's also about the kinds of skills now that are necessary, and that's what's coming out of this work as well, that there's that more demands are being put on them.
Thanks. I'm really interested in that the data as well that came through around specifically this year around the softer skills of communication and stakeholder engagement. I found that really interesting. What are your reflections from where you sit on sustainability professionals having to balance the, as you said, the increasing technical know-how and complexity, particularly around reporting, with those soft skills around relationship building and influencing and collaboration?
Well, I suppose since the beginning of the sustainability profession, those soft skills have been critical, haven't they? Sustainability professionals have always needed strong communication skills, partnering skills, influencing skills, all of those sort of things. But as the scale, complexity, and pace increases, I think we're seeing that those skills become even more important, because no longer can you rely just on your own skills and even the skills of those in your sustainability team, but you need to be able to reach beyond that and really have this virtual team of sustainability professionals, so CFOs and many others as well. And so in a way, that's moving the balance a little bit more to those interpersonal skills, those ways of working, that approach to being able to influence well beyond just perhaps your manager and your manager's manager, but now also with your peers and those around you. So I'm not surprised by it, but it's great that it's coming up in this. And what we always say is it's really important that professionals have that kind of T. They've got the breadth, but they've got their specialism as well. And I think building on that breadth is going to be really critical, so that you can bring in other verticals through the specialists in your own within your own organisation. One thing I just say there, Jerry, is I noted down the collaboration piece, and I think sometimes we think about collaboration as collaboration between organisations. It's also within organisations. I think
Great point. Yeah,
so important.
That's a great point. How does that show up? I mean, are you seeing that reflected in the conversations that you're having with your members around, I guess, that inherent challenge in broadening sustainability conversation across the organisation in order to make it, part of the daily BAU of organisations' response to transition?
Yeah, we are having that conversation, but of course the backdrop to this whole thing is the recession. And so there's no doubt that at the moment sustainability has fallen down the priority list slightly as companies focus on getting through to 2025. Was it sustained to 25, I think is the, or survive to 25 is the title. So there's no doubt that that's kind of front of mind stuff is there. And that means that they're having to work harder to keep sustainability on the agenda at exactly the same time as mandatory reporting's come in and a whole lot of other pressures. So I think it is a challenging time for sustainability professionals. And I think this is where going for that broader support, both within your own organisation and of course, across organisations, super important.
Yeah. How's the SBC helping with that?
So we're upping the number of smaller sessions that we're having now with our members. We used to do fewer sort of big set pieces. What we're finding now is we're increasing the frequency of opportunities for sustainability professionals to get together and network and support one another, both thematically and just generically. So we're doing one a month at the moment. We maybe even increase that. We're also doing a lot more focusing on the different levels of sustainability professionals. So we'll today, because it's an exciting thing to announce, but there's a thing coming which will be there for the 3 different levels of sustainability professionals that are outlined in this group here.
Oh, brilliant.
We're targeted, yeah. And then finally, we're looking to partner with others, including SBN, around the kind of offerings that we're making in the training and support area. So recognising this is a challenging time and leaning into it, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we'll watch this space. Thank you so much, Mike. Any questions again for Mike, please pop them in the Q&A. And I would like to introduce our next panellist, Peter Skilling, who's a senior lecturer at the AUT. Kia ora, Peter.
Kia ora, Jerry.
What do you make of this year's results around wellbeing, particularly in job satisfaction? And how do you think wellbeing amongst sustainability professionals is tracking? Is it more positive, and why than for other New Zealand professionals?
Thanks, Jerry, and kia ora koutou, everyone. Well, I think the findings are really interesting, and I think that there's a number of different things going on that pull in slightly different directions. I mean, just to start by acknowledging in the wellbeing section, some of those trends I think really are concerning. The declining trends in regards to, something as basic as our likelihood of overcoming the challenges that we face with environmental, social, economic challenges, and a declining belief that the situation is a declining belief that it's getting better. These are very real, and I guess that speaks to some of the emotional challenges of working in the sustainability space that Mike was talking really well, I think, about the skills and the knowledge that are required to work in that space. But the other reality is that on a really daily basis, those of us working on sustainability are confronted with some really dire, confronting facts, and sometimes we can feel quite alone in that we're the people or the person in the organization that is sort of taking responsibility and feeling really uncomfortable about that. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that. And certainly that's in keeping with what I'm hearing when I speak with sustainability professionals. We've been doing some research specifically looking at the emotional aspects of working in sustainability around hope and the other, I guess, emotions that arise when you're dealing with really confronting stuff. At the same time, and this came out really strongly in the research that we've done, I think it's probably reflected in some of the job satisfaction figures as well. There's a really positive side to working in sustainability. There's typically a sense of vocation and purpose. Get up each morning or go home each afternoon with some satisfaction and pleasure that the work you do is making a positive difference. And the other thing that comes up over and over when we talk with those working in sustainability, there's a really strong sense of collegial networks within organizations, within industries, and within organizations like SBN and SBC do a great job of facilitating some of those networks that are really important and supportive for people. I mean, I do think paying explicit attention to the emotional demands of sustainability work is something that's really important for organizations and for those of us who are working around that space. Certainly it's something that we find we have to do more explicitly with our students when we present really confronting material in the classroom, to take some time to talk through the emotional hit of living with that knowledge.
That's a great point. And, especially if they're going into a, 30, 40, 50-year career ahead of them in sustainability. And we were just talking in the team about, there've been 28 years of COPs, for instance. And I remember, I remember the first ones when you sort of like watched what was going to happen, and now you're just kind of throwing your hands up in despair. It does get to the point that it's pretty frustrating. So it's interesting, the previous conversation we're having with Mike about the softer skills around communication influencing within the business as well as outside of the business, and I guess keeping the faith and keeping your well-being resilient while at the same time facing the reality of 30 years of kind of failed negotiations, and are we actually tracking downwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right, because I talk, we of all people in the organization, we're the ones who are aware of the scientific predictions. But when we talk with people about what they find emotionally hard in sustainability work, it's not so much, well, it is the scientific facts, but it's also the frustration of seeing how slowly industries and organizations and government policy is moving in relation to those challenges. I really liked, right at the start of the report, I think it's the second page, there's a quote from Dame Therese Walsh saying, within organizations, we must all feel uncomfortable. We can't just leave it to the sustainability officer or sustainability professionals to be the ones who carry that load. And I think that's really true. It's on all organizations.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I loved that. I think it was at the same event actually that it's my favorite quote at the moment, that she said things are going to get spiky in the boardroom. You need to, there are no climate change related graphs that are kind of, very gentle and linear. They're all spiky, and we need to get comfortable with it being spiky. But yeah, I guess it's how you hold spiky and collaborative and influencing at the same time. Do you think that the tertiary sector in New Zealand is well set up, I guess, to close the gap of the incredibly fast pace of change when it comes to technical know-how around sustainability at the moment?
So speaking from within a tertiary education organisation, yes, we are well set up to do it.
Right.
But yeah, there are real challenges. I mean, we, as you know, AUT has been involved with this piece of research from the beginning, and we read the reports really carefully, and we take on board the things that are, identified as gaps and needs within training and education, and we build those into our courses at AUT. There's a minor that students in a business degree can do in sustainable enterprise.
Wow.
And we work really hard with our colleagues in different departments to sort of mainstream sustainability through all departments. So we're doing what we can. I think in terms of some of the gaps, in terms of how prepared and in terms of how sustainability professionals are feeling about their professional development, I think there's a lot that universities can do to support that. You know, I think there can be a lot of work around short courses and micro-credentials and listening to the industry to find out what is most wanted. But it's also true that this is really challenging for us. There's been a lot of job losses in the tertiary sector recently, and tertiary institutions are big bureaucracies. And the things that I personally think and my colleagues and I feel would be most useful around, you know, tailored, flexible courses, short courses, micro-credentials, you know, logistically, they can be really hard to deliver because, you know, as staff, we're quite stretched. So I think there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of goodwill within universities like AUT and others. But all I'd say is, like, talk to us. My colleague Mario has been involved in this research from the beginning. Her details from the last page of the report. Talk to us and let us know what would be useful, and we'll do, you know, we'll do the best that we can to respond to that.
That's such a great offer and such a positive way to finish. Thanks so much, Peter, for your time this morning. It was really interesting. More on this later.
Thanks, Jerry.
Next up, we have the incomparable, wonderful Rachel Brown from the Sustainable Business Network. Kia ora, Rachel. Lovely to see your face.
Kia ora, that's a lovely introduction, Jerry. Thank you, very kind.
Rach, one of the things I found really personally validating around the report was the data around that pace of change and the sheer volume of professional development required, as we were just discussing with Peter, across the many facets of transformational sustainability leadership. What's your take on how we can focus on what matters to most profoundly lead in the changes that we need to see with the urgency required?
Yeah, I mean, I might upset a few people with what I'm going to say. I think that we've got really good at measuring how bad we are.
Yeah.
And we've put a lot of effort into measuring how bad we are. And actually, I think we need to be really uncomfortable and get out of what's comfortably what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're essentially extending business as usual models and trying to work out how to make them less bad. And
100%.
frankly, we can't cope with that anymore. I think we run a leadership course, and what we do with that course is try and get people, first of all, just to reconnect with the things that are really important. So reconnecting with place and reconnecting with natural systems and understanding the impact that we're having on all of, you know, we've really got to get back to the basics of we're humans living on a live ecosystem. It's a planet we rely on for everything. And until we can design business models that work on that planet, I think we're just dreaming. And that is why I think hope has dropped so much, is that anyone who understands the science in this space understands that that's really fundamentally out of whack. So I think sustainability professionals have a really, and Mike kind of hit on this before, and Peter essentially did too, we have to be the visionary people. We have to be the ones that can hold what the future is, be super brave and uncomfortable with, we don't necessarily know how we're going to get there. But if the question is how, if the question is always how do we get there, the vision disappears, because we end up just reversing back into the comfortable space around we can count how bad things are and we can report on and try not to make our reports look too grim, you know? So
100%.
I think we need a massive shift. So I think vision, aspiration, what is possible, bringing people with us, inspiring your team. You don't have to know everything as a sustainability professional. And actually, if you do, you're cutting out your team. You want your team to understand at the finance space particularly, which is growing really quickly now, how do they play a role in rethinking a business model which, you know, isn't reliant on carbon? What's a business model that requires a really different way of thinking? What's a business model that fundamentally is fairer? One that we're kind of currently So I think that's the role of sustainability professionals. Actually, it's getting the buy-in, it's learning from different lenses, thinking about Māori values. How do you really learn from that? It's not about appropriation, it's about learning, it's about kind of that waka model. How do we do all of those kind of things? I really think we need to throw out our old ideas and come up with much better ones.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I'm like genuinely worried at this point that, particularly with the mandatory legislation, for instance, and again, we're going to get a bit controversial, but I'm really worried, as Mike said, we're in a recession and there's that risk of people kind of stepping back from, even though this is, we're 30 years past this conversation, but sustainability should not be a cherry on top, and it is, a core business outcome now. That people, if you're a sustainability practitioner and you've got a limited budget to spend on sustainability stuff or ESG, that you're going to have to spend it on your reporting for the next few years, and that the doing kind of gets deprioritized, and I'm very worried about that possible outcome.
And can I add another thing about that? How many sustainability professionals do you meet? And I meet a lot of them, and you go, how's your work going? And they go, oh, I am deep in reporting.
Yeah.
And you go, and how's that? Oh my God, it is so much of a burden.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, we're spending all of this time reporting what we're doing and not enough time reimagining, thinking about new business models and how we move forward. I think we're wasting skills. Actually, we're wasting skills, and we're wasting that whole imagination space. And that's really what our leadership course is really focused on now. And it's, we're no longer just going, how do you do things slightly better? That's just a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the opportunity for us as sustainability professionals is to have that world of both, right? That we take the process of the reporting and actually make sure that transition planning is description of how you are going to do things differently, and how you are going to, genuinely make integrated business decisions differently in the future, or be unsustainable. So, I mean, I think that's the challenge for us, is that the outcome is a decarbonisation pathway. The outcome is not the report. Yeah.
But it's a decarbonisation strategy, and it's an innovation strategy, and it's a vision strategy. Like, if we just decarbonise, we're just going to be constantly trying to do things slightly better. If we start going, what are the good things in our business models? Because frankly, there's a lot of business models that are fundamentally, in businesses that are fundamentally wrong, and we don't need them in a sustainable future. You and I can probably pick a few sectors out, right? So we could go, what are the good things about that sector that we want to retain? And what are the bits we have to let go of? And then where's the innovation? And what's that vision for the future that we definitely need?
Yeah,
it's not there right now.
Yeah. You've touched on this a bit around, mātauranga Māori, and what I mean, we know already, we have known for some time that the Te Ao Māori worldview of social and environmental sustainability gets it in terms of the integration of social and environmental sustainability. What specifically do you think that we can learn from bringing those principles into the way that we're making decisions in order to do better?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, I think we're not doing a good job of this at all, really. What was it, about 4% of sustainability professionals are Māori, which is a very, very, very small number. It's essentially saying they're not in this space, but they do have a really important role to play. And I love that idea of the double-hulled waka, where we learn how to basically embrace each other's values that we're bringing together, because it does bring really good things. Māori are very good at intergenerational thinking. We're not. We do 3-year plans. And actually, I think that's a failing of ours, and it's a beautiful thing that Māori bring into this conversation. The other thing is that whole thing about reciprocity, giving back. And I think we run these extraordinarily extractive business models where we're taking from humans and taking from nature all the time. Whereas if we thought about what do we put back in, it's more of a regenerative model. It's not just a regenerative model for nature, because we are part of nature, but it's also about addressing the inequality in the systems, which are, excessively accelerating away. So I just see it as being an absolute, together we can do a better job. And I think at the moment we're still not doing a good job of that at all. You know, the co-governance models, all of those things, they're great, and we're scared of them. And I think that's ridiculous. We should embrace it, bring it in, do it well, learn from each other, rethink, because Pākehā have stuffed up a lot of global things. We're extractive. Nature's telling us it's wrong. Our climate is changing. Inequality is growing. You know, we really need a new lens on this.
So many great takeouts from that, Rach. Thank you so much. Love your work. Kia kaha. Thank you. Our last panelist today is my friend Olaf Adam, who is the head of ESG at Westpac. Come in.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Olaf, you're our token sustainability professional actually on the panel today. What insights do you have coming out of reading the report as a sustainability professional about the need for professional development and how we're doing as a country in terms of meeting that demand?
Yeah, I think I wasn't surprised to read about sort of the emphasis on learning on the job, sort of that's sort of becoming almost the default mode for professional development with many. And I'm in a similar boat. So I often sort of struggle to kind of, what's your professional development plan? I'm going, oh, I'm just gonna keep. So it's. But sort of the report made me think about why that is, and I think there's a couple of reasons for it. And the first one is that often the role of a sustainability professional is being sort of the thought leader and a sense maker on stuff that still feels quite foreign and strange to a lot of people that we're working with. So you don't necessarily operate in an environment where you have your training professionals in your organization knowing the kind of courses that you should be doing and kind of serving them up to you on a silver platter for just to sign up and do them. So often we are in a situation where we have to go out and find our own places to get our own training from, and that takes time, and that often we don't have. I think the second thing is that we are obviously in an environment that's constantly fast evolving, and all the content that 24/7 is being thrown at us. So we are never running out of stuff to learn and to read and to educate ourselves, and we have good professional networks. So like for many of us, we don't really feel many of us don't feel the need of a formal training, because we kind of feel that we're constantly learning anyway. So we're not thirsty for that either. So I think that would, to me, explain sort of that emphasis on the job learning that we're seeing. And so so I think it's the other piece that I really found quite noticeable is that sort of emphasis on soft skills, and perhaps parts of that might provide an answer on how we can make the most most out of the training perhaps that is provided through our organizations, because a lot of it is about transferable skill sets. So I think perhaps as sustainability professionals, we need to get better at kind of picking up these opportunities. And we talked about communication, we talked about influencing. Just so listening to the previous wonderful speakers, I'm sort of get reminded of my original professional background, which was a banker and a lender. And I always was told that, credit is contact sport. It's healthy to have a bit of, confrontation and a bit of tension. And you just, so I would probably add to this kind of this, particularly in the environment that we are now increasingly in, a little bit of developing some skill sets around conflict resolution and conflict management, and actually getting comfortable again with, with dealing with some pretty serious pushback. And of course, as things get tighter and people become more desperate, I think the tensions will rise around us. And I think there would be another area where you can develop some transferable skills that I would probably see quite valuable at the moment.
That's my takeout for today. Carbon is a contact sport. Love it. I mean, I think that's the thing. It's not, when you say softer skills, it doesn't necessarily mean to be soft, right? It means like, that you need to be good at influencing. And one of those things might be to I guess, have the chutzpah to go back and say, no, this is happening and this is real and we need to respond to it. And here's our plan. Yeah, strategically.
A nicer word for soft skills is transferable skills.
That's a great point. Yeah,
which also means that if you are concerned about your role and about the pressure that you might be under within your organization, then developing transferable skills won't hurt.
Yeah, well, so on the transferability, I mean, I think it's really interesting that what we call the additionals in this report, which are about 18% of those who responded. I know Westpac's doing an extraordinary job of that transferring of knowledge, I guess, in the organisation and keeping up with the pace of change really, really well. What's your advice to those who, I mean, I think one of the main insights I've had as a sustainability professional over the last probably 2 or 3 years has been that kind of tension around, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And we're getting to that point now around leading the horse to water in terms of, like, I get it, I'm in, I've got my leadership on board, I understand the context, I understand that we need to be doing something about this, I understand kind of what we need to do. But then when you get to talk to those people whose job it is to do, and you're trying to transfer that knowledge within their BAU, they don't have the time and they don't have the capability. So what's your advice in terms of closing that capability gap for those additionals within an organisation?
Yeah, I think you probably start by explaining to the horse that it doesn't need to drink water. And what I mean with that is, for a lot of professionals that we're dealing with, often they don't recognize the real value that sustainability can bring to their day-to-day job. And I think for us as professionals to understand the value that sustainability can add to them is, I think, as a starting point, we need to learn what their job is. And so I think it really helps, or a good way of thinking about it, because before you want to be a teacher, you got to be a student first. So you got to really understand the context that your organization is operating in. You need to understand the people that you're trying to reach. What is their day-to-day job? What are they actually doing? And then how would sustainability fit into their day-to-day job, and how would it add value? And there's a couple of really positive side effects on that. So for first, of course, you will be able, so you become a better sustainability professional because you're going to be able to really understand how these concepts work in the real world. Secondly, you'll be able to target your training a lot better to their day-to-day needs. It's going to be a lot easier to convince them. Thirdly, you're going to get a lot of street cred because you understand what they do and where they're at, and you probably it's going to become a lot easier for you to empathize with their own
understanding what it means
their own challenges. And that then sets you up really well for the other parts of your role, which are more about the influencing side of things. But again, the starting point here is you actually learn a lot when you go and spend some time in the business, whatever that business may be, and maybe even spend some time learning parts of the craft. So that would be kind of my key observation in this area, in mine with Westpac. Be a banker and then be a sustainability professional, because you're going to be a better sustainability professional if you know how to be a banker. And I think that's possibly transferable in other organizations as well. Yeah,
knowing your own business first. I just want to jump into the questions, and I'll start with you, Olaf, because I've got you, and you've kind of answered this a bit, but we can get a bit more specific in it. But someone's just asked, what is the financial sustainability capability building that's needed? Does this mean more information on green finance, sustainability linked loans, etc., or on ensuring economic sustainability of the business?
Oh, that's a big question. I think there is, in many organizations, it's still about understanding the key drivers for sustainability, appreciating that we are not only a shareholder-centric but a stakeholder-centric organization. If you miss that, then you're putting your own business at risk. So just the business case for sustainability is something that we're hearing a lot from our customers. Right. Intuitively they get it, but they kind of need to make sure it's being translated into their business context. How does this make sense? So that's the first thing. I think a real in-depth understanding of the risks as well as the opportunities. So, it's easy from a in the financial sector to default into sustainable finance. But that's just one part of it. I think as a starting point, it's really understanding how certain sustainability risks, or call them ESG risks, be it environmental, social, or governance related, how that actually may roll through as a financial impact on the organization. And then translating that back into, okay, what are the risk management practices that we're going to apply here in order to address those, and then perhaps some opportunities arise from that. So it's really kind of translating sustainability context into the context of the business is operating and transferring that into financial impacts, because that's the economics of it, and then bringing it back and finding ways to addressing those. So it's actually kind of bringing, it's sort of sustainable finance and ESG.
Thank you. That was an excellent build on your presentation as well. Thanks so much, Ola. I will ask a couple of questions of Sarah. Come in, Sarah. Question from Haojin. I've seen the sustainability sector grow in the last 10 years from initially looking at reducing waste. I feel your pain, Haojin, to now needing professional certificates in GHG emissions. Again, you're with me on the feeling seen thing. How do you see the sector and profession growing in the next 5 to 10 years with the raised awareness, capability, technology advancements needed?
I'm really sorry. I look like
wow.
I look like some kind of freak. Sorry, something's happened to my screen and I missed the question as you as I was trying to fix it.
Should we send Jack in to go and fix that? Jack is on his way. So the question from Haojin is, I've seen the sustainability sector grow in the last 10 years from just initially looking at reducing waste to now needing professional certificates around GHG emissions. How do you see the sector and the profession growing in the next 5 to 10 years with the raised awareness, capability, technological advancement, and urgency in dealing with the issues?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first and foremost, I'd say I love that there is greater rigor to the methods and standards. As someone, as you guys were talking about before, you know, I think we can get quite carried away with focused on the reporting and not what the actual output of that is and what it means in terms of the doing. But in general, I think those standards will continue to increase over time. But also what I think in terms of that means of the profession, just I guess back to the point you were discussing with Olaf, we will see more and more additional roles or roles that are sitting in other parts of the business that are not traditionally sustainability roles that are taking on sustainability aspects of their role. So I guess partnering that back or linking that back to the standards side of things, it's really important that we do have those standards and information methodologies available for new professionals who are in traditional roles that are needing to do this stuff well.
I'm just going to ask a question of Mike, if you're still there, while Sarah sorts out not looking like she's just come in from a blue planet. Oh, there you are, yay.
Sorry about that. Very, very disconcerting for everyone.
It's not distracting at all. Mike, Faye has asked a question around how could the international knowledge and experience in sustainability in other jurisdictions around the world add value to the competency of sustainable professionals in the market in New Zealand?
I think that's a really important question. I think that sometimes, you know, we can feel like the last bus stop on the bus route here in New Zealand. And I think that was particularly underlined during COVID, where that connectivity globally, I think, was reduced. And I think I believe one message would just be, do try and connect globally, because first of all, the pace of change in places like Europe and North America at the moment is leaving New Zealand in the dust, and even across Australia. So the answer to that question is there's a lot we can learn from our global colleagues, which is why things like the Climate Change and Business Conference are so important, where you can bring some of those voices in. But the other thing is that what we're trying to do at the moment with SBC is connect into global groups like the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, we can do some of that peer-to-peer connection. If
Mm.
a company that has a global element to it, you've got an advantage because you can reach out through that. But there are other ways of doing it as well, and obviously our organisation and many others are ways of doing that. One of the things I've noticed though is that their approach is, I can't think of another country that has a stronger approach when it comes to Indigenous peoples. I think that New Zealand is in Aotearoa, New Zealand's in a rather unusual position in that space. So it's kind of two-way. I think there's some stuff we can learn from overseas, but there's the point Rachel was making earlier, there's actually things that we can take out globally.
Yeah,
Certainly conversations we've been having recently, Jay Krangle gave a presentation at our World Business Council, and the piece they were most interested in was that interface with Māori and how Te Ao Māori works within the work that we do. So yeah, it is a two-way street, but there's something we can learn there.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Mike. Peter, a question that I'm going to direct to you. I've seen specialists become redundant of late, and myself as a generalist have found lots of opportunities in the gaps in global connectivity. How do you recommend proceeding with additional training without becoming overly niche?
Question.
Sorry, I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, isn't it? There's, there are obviously, universities run MBA programs, and I know in the chat and the Q&A, there's training available through, some of the partner organisations to this research. SBN run a series of courses, I know, and I think there's a link provided in the Q&A. So it's sort of difficult to know, it's difficult to answer in the abstract, I suppose, because everybody's situation is different based on, the career goals and the experience that everyone has. But it's, I guess, all I can really say in a general sense is that there are options around, and to talk to people in the industry, talk to people at SBN and SBC, talk to us at AUT about particular needs, because there are options out there.
Thanks, Peter. That's great. Last question. I think we've got time for a quick one. A quick answer from Rach. How can individuals progress in their career within a sector where companies often seek specific experience, yet it's difficult to gain that experience without opportunities due to a lack of leadership buy-in? Additionally, how can entry-level roles be better structured to ensure that REM matches the level of experience required? That's a big question for a quick answer.
It is a good one. And that a lot of those people actually come on our courses as well, because there are more and more people wanting to transition out of the roles they're currently doing because they're worried about future things. So they want to be involved in this space. I would say the best thing to do is to just start networking and learning. It's probably additional work, I know, but get out there, learn and listen and integrate sustainability into your current role, because I think that's a really good way of learning. You can shine no matter where you are, in whatever role you are, if you understand the scale and pace of change that's needed and become that absolutely essential person in your organisation that becomes a change agent, because you don't have to be a sustainability leader to be that change agent. And as a matter of fact, when we're sustainability leaders, we're desperate that people like you do it. So I would say just get out there, get involved. There's lots of free training out there. Organisations like ours and others do that. Take it, do it. Don't use the fact that you don't have that as a blooming job title as a reason to not play. Just get involved, get started.
Just get in here and shine. I love that.
Yeah, the same thing goes for young people who've just finished their quals. We're about to restart with some of your team, Jerry.
Yeah.
The Now crowd, and that really is going to target young people coming out of their training, wanting to get into this space. So you get to play with people like Kelly and Ollie and Jack from this team and ours, and start hearing, how do you get into this space? And network, learn, do the best you can, and you'll get there and you'll be fabulous.
Love that positivity to finish on. Thank you so much, Rach. Can always rely on you for hopeful ending to our chat today. Thanks so much. Just conscious that we're at time. Thanks everyone for your time today and brilliant questions. Thanks so much to our panelists for both your support of this ongoing research, which we are so grateful for in the sustainability profession. Thanks to Sarah and the team for keeping at it every year, and the gift that you give to the sustainability community through this research and making us feel so validated and seen every year. Thank you for that. I just want to close out with a karakia, which we can say together if it's up on the screen. Here we are. Onahia, 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 ki te uru, tapu nui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākou, te tina, te tinana, te wairua, ki te ara tangata, koia rā te rongo. Whakaerehia ake ki runga, kia tina, tina, hui e, taiki e. Thank you so much everyone for attending today. You can download our report on our website. There's heaps of posts about it on LinkedIn if you can't find it today. And any questions, please get in touch with any of us at Oxygen. Thank you so much for your time. Ka kite.